Okay, let's dive right into this explainer and unravel what is honestly one of the most unexpected twists in the entire history of human intelligence. For decades, humanity has basically operated under this massive, unspoken assumption that we're just on an upward trajectory. We look around at our incredible technological advancements, the smartphones, the rockets, and we naturally assume that as a species, our raw brainpower is just going to keep going up forever. But today, well, today we're looking at hard, undeniable data that tells a completely different story. It's a simple question, right? Do you consider yourself smarter than your parents? How about your grandparents? It feels like just a fun piece of casual trivia, but the data holding the answer to this is going to completely change how you view your own mind today. Because by the end of this explainer, you're going to understand exactly what is happening to our shared cognitive abilities right now, whether you realize it's happening to you or not. Part 1. The Rise and Fall. Intelligence Trends. Let's start by looking at a phenomenon that researchers honestly thought would just keep going up forever. There was a long period of time where the answer to that question about your grandparents was a definitive scientific yes. Notice how clearly this timeline tracks our intellectual history. From the 1930s all the way through to the 1990s, every single generation of humans scored measurably and consistently higher on intelligence tests than the one before them, across every single country that tracked it. A child born in 1980 was, on paper, simply smarter than their parents. Researchers called this the Flynn Effect, and for 50 years it was literally one of the most reliable findings in all of cognitive science. But then, suddenly, right around 1995, that trend didn't just stop, it actually went backwards. And a major 2018 Norwegian study confirmed that this reversal isn't just real, it's actually accelerating. And I really want to emphasize the sheer scale here. This isn't some small anomaly or a fluke in a tiny sample size. The data from over 1 million people across 8 different countries confirms these scores are falling. And they're falling by amounts so large that researchers have officially described the drop as alarming. To put that into perspective, American studies measuring multiple cognitive domains found that 3 out of 4 of those domains are currently in active decline. Part 2. Debunking the DNA myth, nature versus nurture. So the natural question is, why? Well, when this decline was first discovered, the most popular explanation was also, frankly, the most comfortable one. But it turns out it was completely wrong. This math-based theory, known as the dysgenics hypothesis, spread like wildfire. It basically suggested that smarter, highly educated people were having fewer children, while less educated populations were having more. So over generations, the math seemingly works against average intelligence. This theory carried that cold authority of arithmetic, It felt like science, and you've probably heard some version of it debated in comment sections or at dinner tables. But a massive 2018 study tracking over 700,000 men completely shattered that idea. The researchers didn't just compare different families to each other, they compared brothers. By testing brothers with the exact same genes, the same parents, the same house, the same neighborhood, and the same dinner table, they isolated the variables. And guess what? The younger brother consistently scored lower. This proved definitively that the decline wasn't in their DNA at all, because if it was genetic, brothers sharing the same DNA would score similarly. And this brilliantly illustrates that something massive shifted in our shared environment after 1975 to cause this cognitive drop. Think of it like 2 plants from the exact same seed, grown in the exact same pot. But one of them, the one that sprouted later, grew up with less light. The seed didn't change at all. The conditions did. And whatever shifted in our conditions shifted everywhere. Because we're seeing this exact same pattern in Denmark, Finland, France, the Netherlands, Estonia, and the US. Part 3. The death of boredom. Losing our focus. Let's move to our first major suspect here and see exactly what type of intelligence is actually falling. Because it's not random. The drop is heavily concentrated in one specific area of the brain's capabilities, a cluster that researchers call executive function. This includes sustained attention, working memory, the ability to resist immediate rewards, and fluid reasoning under pressure. These specific skills are literally what built everything in our civilization. It's the ability to hold several abstract things in your mind at once and manipulate them. And here's the secret. These skills aren't fixed at birth. They build like a muscle through a very specific kind of mental exercise. And what is that exercise? It's boredom. Now, not the kind of boredom where you literally have nothing to do, but the specific cognitive state of staying with a difficult problem when an easier option, like, say, reaching for a distraction, is right there, readily available. It's reading a long argument all the way through to its conclusion, or sitting with an unsolved problem, following a thought to where it actually leads instead of instantly jumping to the next shiny thing. So the absolute crucial point here is that modern life has structurally eliminated this cognitive exercise from our daily routine entirely. Just look at the stark reality of our attention environment in these numbers. Interruption-based business models have fundamentally fragmented our focus. Back in 2023, researchers tracked over 80,000 people and found that the average time a person could focus on one single screen without switching dropped from 2.5 minutes in 2004 down to a mere 47 seconds today. 47 seconds. It's not because people inherently got dumber. It's because nothing around them requires sustained focus anymore. Every single app and platform is built to interrupt you because interruption keeps you scrolling, and scrolling makes money. That younger Norwegian brother simply came of age in an environment with measurably more fragmentation and far, far fewer hours of the effortful, uninterrupted thought that built his older brother's working memory. Part 4. Quiet chemical changes. Hidden factors. But listen, our screens aren't acting alone. The attention environment is the primary driver for sure, but there are two other environmental suspects that quietly altered our brains without us ever even noticing. While you are losing the ability to focus digitally, you're also being exposed to physical chemical shifts. For most of the 20th century, commercial bread was made with iodized dough conditioners. Iodine is directly linked to cognitive development, especially in kids, and its abundance actually helped drive that original Flynn effect. But in the 70s and 80s, manufacturers quietly switched to bromine-based alternatives, so iodine deficiency quietly returned, which is perfectly documented to reduce IQ scores. Combine that with lead exposure from aviation fuel that ran all the way until 1996, because apparently pumping exhaust directly into our air wasn't great for our brains either, who knew? And you have a perfect storm. Nutrition, chemical exposure, and the attention environment. Three converging forces running simultaneously. Part 5. The AI convergence. Machines versus humans.
Now, all of those culprits are damaging. Absolutely. But they don't explain what happens when we look at a secondary trend. This is the part that makes those first suspects feel like a warm-up. We need to look at something that started rising quietly around 2015. This is the true twist of this whole explainer. Researchers noticed a pattern. Not all cognitive skills are falling equally. The ones falling the absolute fastest, abstract reasoning, holding multiple things in your mind, thinking under pressure, they look almost perfectly targeted. And they are precisely the specific skills that artificial intelligence systems have improved at the fastest since 2015. We are losing the very hardest skills we ever developed right at the exact moment artificial intelligence is rapidly acquiring them.
When you put human decline and AI improvement on the exact same graph, there is nothing subtle about it. One line goes down while the other goes up, and they are converging right now. They're closer together than they have ever been in history. Even though researchers note that the tests measure slightly different things, the overlap is just undeniable. Both lines are tracking toward the exact same destination. We are literally offloading our working memory and reasoning to machines, and our own cognitive muscles are atrophying as a direct result. Part 6. Reversing the trend. Taking back control. But here is the absolute most important part of this entire explainer, the part that almost no one reporting on this actually tells you, and the part that gives you the power to fight back. Because the younger Norwegian brother only scored lower due to his environment, it means this cognitive decline is absolutely reversible. Something in the world changed, which means those exact same things can be changed back. The cognitive science points to a specific set of conditions to fix this, and it involves doing the exact opposite of what most modern, fast-paced productivity advice tells you to do.
You can actively rebuild your executive function. It just takes manual effort. First, you have to face a difficult, complex problem. Second, you have to actively resist the urge to reach for your phone or open a new browser tab when it gets tough. And third, you have to sit with the boredom. You have to literally force your brain to hold the pieces of the puzzle and manually build your working memory back up. The window to reclaim your cognitive focus is not permanently closed. You are one of the only generations in history that has the data to see this line falling in real time, right at the exact moment when the cost of letting it fall has never been higher.
So what does this all mean? Humans are, on average, losing their hardest-won cognitive skills. That's the data. But the real question is whether you will let that line keep dropping for you, or if you're going to do the heavy lifting today to push it back up. The window is open, but only if you decide to step away from the distraction, sit with the difficulty, and start flexing that mental muscle again. Will you be part of the answer or just another data point in the trend?